How long does it have to be? No. Doesn't matter.
Just talk about what you wrote about, Shawn.
I'm trying to remember.
Do I need to turn the camera off
No,
now?
I I'm just kidding. The article that I did mine on was about about gun companies. One particular, the one that was in the article was called Keystone, and they specialize in making guns like rifles for like hunting and stuff. And so one of the new marketing objectives that they have is instead of marketing to adults and teenagers, they're shifting focus and trying to create certain products as well as market their brand to younger kids, like 7-year-olds, 8-year-olds. They're kind of like starting early. The report that I got the article from, they called the report "Start Them Young," and it's really appropriate because what Keystone is doing is they're creating books as well as characters and creating certain products like rifles and stuff to be able to appeal to the younger generation. So you can when you start them young, you can expose them to the experience of like handling guns, like hunting and all that. And so to create that brand loyalty at a very early age. And so the ethics part about that is it ethical to market to children about guns? Because there's a big stigma on violence with guns, because there's a lot of things that's happened in the recent times about accidents, people accidentally shooting each other, violence with like police, and all these other things. And so for a company like that to do something like that, it seems like it's very bad timing, and it seems like in bad taste. And so that's what I wrote about. One ethical theory that I try to incorporate into that is the utilitarianism. Obviously for Keystone, that would be really beneficial for them because they're trying to expand their target market, their customer base. But for the other people, I also incorporated cultural relativism because there's no real right answer. Like some people say it's ethical, but other people say it might not be because all the implications involved with advertising or promoting weapons or guns and rifles to kids. And so that's pretty much what I did.
Okay, wait, I guess we have some questions. Does anybody have any questions or anything they could add to that? How many of you feel like it's ethical to market guns to children? Anybody?
I do. My 2 and 3-year-old, not necessarily market to them, but I think it is important to show them that my kids know not to go near a gun safe. My kids know you don't touch that gun. Like my kids understand that concept. I think it's okay to show kids you don't have to be scared of guns. I think it's completely okay. I think that by sheltering them, it causes more problems because when they get to be 15, 16 years old and they go to their friend's house and my kids hopefully will have a conceal and carry. I have a conceal and carry, and they have a gun in the house, and it might not be locked up. I don't want them to go, oh, what's this, and be completely uneducated
They
at all.
actually did a study that showed kids who were educated about guns and kids who parents who didn't have guns who sheltered them
Pardon
away.
me, could you speak up?
They actually did I saw a video, I can't remember where I saw that, but they did a study about kids who actually knew about guns and what the effects of guns, and kids who didn't know anything about guns, and parents that didn't even have guns or talking about it. And they laid guns on the table to see actually who would go pick it up or who would touch it. And the kids who didn't know anything about guns were the ones who were going and picking it up and looking at it, and the kids who did actually knew the effects of guns and knew to stay away from them.
So maybe it's good to inform them about the dangers and and what they can do. But for me, for a company like Keystone to advertise actual products that are made for kids, that's where I feel like they're kind of overstepping a certain line or boundary.
So they're making guns that fit the size of a child?
Sort of. It's more for for hunting purposes. And so for kids who are maybe 10, maybe not really young, but once you can grow old enough to maybe go hunting with their parents or with their guardian, they're making weapons that are lightweight and where it's like small enough where like, kids are like that age or that size can hold them and handle them, instead of having like the bigger ones where it might be a little bit too difficult or maybe even harm them when they use them.
They have 22s that are made for a child between the ages of 5 and 7. That, like, they're made, that's what they're made for. And they're lightweight, they're little, I mean,
I think that's safer than telling a 10-year-old to use a full-size gun, because I mean, they won't be able to handle it properly, it's gonna be too big and bulky, and it's gonna be more dangerous for them. So why not teach them when they're young, like, how to use a gun, or how to handle it safely without causing more danger to themselves.
Because I know there's some people like, some parents who might not like guns, period, they're like no violence at all, and that's completely understandable. And then I can see from the other side of like parents who grew up with hunting and who like that particular sport, and it'd be good to like market to them. So it's really, with the cultural relativism, again, bringing it back to that is trying to find like a good middle ground of finding a way to make those people happy and not try to like upset other people.
You know, as far as I know, every one of the guns where there's been mass shootings by young people, they grew up in houses that had guns. Like Columbine, the 2 boys in Columbine, they grew up, both of their families had guns in the house. And so they grew up with guns. And then they shot a lot of people. And there's the other kid in Arkansas, he grew up in guns. Just most of the ones I've ever read about, they all grew up with guns. And then they went out and used them against people.
I just feel like there already is a product that's aimed towards children and kids that age, and they're called BB guns and pellet guns. Why do they need real guns?
Yeah.
Though, there's also, like, the kids that are in sports clubs, like 4-H, or, I think it's just 4-H, but they have the shooting sports competition every second, so they also have products for them.
Yeah.
So that's another part of the market that.
But if
maybe
you're using it
consider.
for a purpose like hunting, like, and you're going out and being responsible, like with an adult, and they're hunting, you know, that's reasonable because it's for a purpose, like to kill.
Oh yeah, but I feel like you're not gonna make a high enough caliber gun small enough for a
Well, I
child to
know,
take
but
down
like-
an animal.
Yeah.
A 22 isn't gonna take a deer down.
No, but I mean, if you're using it for
Right.
a purpose and not just.
Unless you
like-
shoot it point blank in the head with it. Like, that's the only way it's
But
going
you're
down.
squirrel hunting.
You know, speaking of the small guns, the little BB guns, this was in the news the other night. This little, I don't know, 8 or 9-year-old kid had his BB gun. He was at the park, and somebody saw this little kid with a gun and called the police, and the police came and shot him because he had a gun.
Yeah, there was a case where it happened at Walmart where a kid had taken a BB, one of the pistol
Yes, that was
ones
another
out
one.
of the cage, and he was waving it around, and someone called the cops and they came in and shot him because they thought he had a real gun.
Yeah, and that was just a toy gun. Well, that doesn't exactly talk about marketing, does it?
My bad.
No, no, that's fine. Thank you.
Gonna take a controversial issue.
All right, now I know that there are a couple of people, I think, on this middle row. Is there anybody else over there on that row that hasn't done there? You have not? Okay, would you? Okay.
No, you did terrible.
Okay, I
Wait,
did
would
my
you, now start.
I did my article review over the Oscars monologue that Chris Rock did at the beginning. I talked about how they were advertising the Oscars as there were no colored people who were nominated for any award, and so people were taking offense to that. And ultimately, the Oscars had lower ratings this year. People were talking badly about it, very negatively, saying that people were discriminating against colored people and not giving equal opportunity to everyone. And I used ethical relativism as my theory that I linked it together to. So just whether or not really marketing the Oscar brand as being racial, if that was ethical or not. So that's what we talked about.
Any discussion? Did they ever give a reason why there were no black people nominated this
No.
year?
It was just the talent. They were saying of who they had nominated, they felt like they were the best, and so it was kind of just a brush off of their shoulder. I don't think they really thought anything of it until it was released, and then
it became a big issue.
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
So do you think that they should have in the Oscars, like you have to have a percentage of mixed racial people, or according to the, like, what is there, 10% black people in the United States, or 15%? So maybe 15% of the awards have to go to them?
I think if you're talented and you deserve it, then you deserve it.
It shouldn't even be an issue.
Yeah.
I mean, it's gonna happen, it always has, but they shouldn't have to make something like that.
But it basically overtook the entire Oscars. Did anyone watch it?
Yeah,
Yeah, I
it was
did.
terrible.
I mean,
Chris
the
Rock,
whole
like,
time.
that's all he talked
Yeah.
about. I
That's
was
all they
like,
talked about.
Well, because the announcer was a black guy.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
yeah,
Think
but
of what
if you
this is-
actually paid attention, he was making fun of the whole concept of
Yes.
majority
Yeah.
And he
time.
was. At
He
the
was.
beginning of it, he was, and I thought it was funny. And I was
Yeah,
laughing. I thought it was
He
great.
took it.
I mean,
But
they
then
even called
it
out
was
people
the-
who were like,
Yeah, the whole
Yeah.
Will
Talk-
Smith
yeah.
family,
It
he
was-
called out all of them.
The entire time. Like, I almost just changed it because I was like, do we have to keep talking about this?
yeah.
Right.
I mean, it is kind of.
Poking fun at it is totally fine, but it overtook the whole thing.
Yeah, it certainly did.
Denzel should
Okay. Nothing else? Any other comments? Okay, thank you very much. Good. Anyone else on that first row over there? No? Okay, let's begin here. I know
Yeah, we already went.
you've gone. Gentlemen, have you, sir?
No, I haven't.
Okay, you're next.
I've had ready.
Okay. I did my article review over an article that was titled 8 Companies That Sold You Lies, and the companies that they gave as examples, they all had stuff in common, not just lawsuits and hefty fines, but a lot of them use celebrity endorsements to market their products. And so I based it off the utilitarianism theory, how it just benefits the company as a whole, but it affects their consumers that buy that product. She said that it was unethical because it reaches out to a larger, more vulnerable target audience, and it builds a form of trust and familiarity. And then I talked about the new marketing trend of social media with celebrity endorsements, how fans can follow these celebrities' everyday life and just form like a trust with them and see what products that they use, and how celebrities that do endorse a company, for like every Instagram and Twitter post that they do, they could be paid up to $10,000 per post. And how it's just whenever they do a post about a company and its product, it reaches out to their entire fan base. And then I also said about how it's even more unethical when a company that knows that they're falsely advertising their product, but they still decide to endorse a celebrity. That's just more unethical. And the example that I used was Skechers Shape-Ups, and they had Kim Kardashian endorse them. And they based it off this clinical study that this chiropractor did, and said that it was proven that these shoes burn calories and they tone your legs and your butt. But to come to find out that this chiropractor that did this clinical study was married to one of the marketing executives. So they ended up reaching like a $40 million settlement. And not only did it make Skechers look bad, but it made Kim Kardashian look bad. And even though she's even more famous today, and she's endorsed other products, she's still ridiculed for her Skechers Shape-Ups, as to where Skechers has put that behind them. So overall, just feel that celebrity endorsements is just an unethical way to market products to larger target audiences.
What about, can you say anything in there if they actually like use the product? I always wondered, celebrities actually use the product, they would use like.
Excuse me, ma'am, could you speak up louder, please? so
I always
everyone
just
can hear?
wondered if the celebrities actually use the products they actually endorse, or if they're just
Yeah, I
going
wondered.
and.
Well, with like the Skechers, they did a commercial with, and had Kim Kardashian star in it. And she was like in the shoes and workout clothes and
I just wondered, like, everyday use though, if she actually, like, if that can be used.
I mean, it didn't
Usually-
touch base on that.
Usually when somebody's endorsed by something, you get a bunch of free products from them, and they ask you to wear them. Or you get like, you can lose your endorsements if you're wearing their competitors' products.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What about when a celebrity endorses something like ASPCA or Feed the Children or a charity event? Should they not use their star power or whatever it is to broaden the scope of that advertising campaign?
Well, I did my argument on based off of false advertisement of products.
Okay.
So it's not, I mean, it's great for like good. And so if you
then-
follow the utilitarianism on that concept, they're trying to do the greatest good for the greatest number of people.
But when Kim Kardashian did the ad, she didn't know it was a false product.
Yeah, and that's what
So where
we're
do you go?
saying, that it's more unethical that Skechers knew that this product was false. They still decided to endorse her to make their target audience bigger and get more consumers to buy this product.
I think there's a difference here. When you are endorsing a product and getting paid money for that, to endorse that product, that's, somebody's purchasing that product. In the case of when stars go on and try to feed the children and different things like that, they're not selling you a product. They're selling you, a way for you to donate and be a part of.
Yeah, and either way, if you spend $200 on shoes or $200 to feed the children, you spend $200, what if it comes out that Feed the Children has defrauded everyone who's ever donated to them and aren't feeding children? I mean,
Well, that's true.
on the front side, it's a good thing. I mean, if Nike comes out and LeBron James I don't know, whomever endorses something for a sports company and it comes out that he's,
He doesn't
been
wear them.
molesting children, I mean, it like on the surface, sure, but then for you to say no celebrity should endorse anything ever, like when do you know that it's a bad thing? After the endorsement's been done.
I mean, it goes both ways. The company can make the celebrity look bad, or the celebrity can make the company look bad. I also did incorporated another article. I didn't talk about it, but I read it. But it gave the example of Paula Deen and her racial slurs that she used. Well, she had endorsements with Food Network, Walmart, Kohl's, all that, and
Yeah.
after that surfaced, she lost all of her endorsements. And usually when something like that happens, that company drops their endorsements because they think that would have a negative impact on their company.
So then who do you use to endorse products and promote products?
I mean, I'm not saying that like celebrity endorsements, like, yeah, they can be great, but I mean when they're actually, the product like sticks to, what it can do, and it's not falsely advertised.
So it would be important for a celebrity to vet the product, or for the product to vet the celebrity before they made this contract.
Yeah.
Important that you know what you're buying into and know who they're buying into. Anything else? Thank you.
My article was over how CocaCola is funding research and organizations that suggest weight gain is contributed from the lack of exercise, not really by what you eat and drink, which is misleading. And Chicago's governor even tried to put a tax on the sugary beverages, and Coca-Cola I think it was 6 million to 60 of their fitness centers, and the tax was dropped, and that's really what I got.
Any discussion?
Well, I mean, isn't it like proven that diet's like the most important part of losing weight?
Yeah.
So I mean, obviously that's just wrong.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So they also did that in New York. I think the mayor of New York tried to put a tax on sugary drinks, all of them. And I don't know how far that got.
Yeah.
Does anybody know?
I think they tried to ban sugary drinks over 20 ounces.
Yeah.
That was it,
And
yeah.
I think, yeah, it lasted like a month, and then basically everyone kept doing it anyway, and it didn't matter. They couldn't enforce it.
Yeah.
Yeah, that would be an enforcement hassle. Anything else, anybody?
Did the corporation you mentioned face any backlash for that?
There's like other researchers that are trying to prove against them. Like they did, they took 200 inactive men and women that were overweight and put them on extreme exercise plans and told them to eat the same. And they only, in a year, they lost 2 pounds.
Yeah. Just as a rule of thumb, I think it's dieting is, or weight loss is like 80% what you put in your mouth and 20% exercise. So at least that's one of the articles I read. Thank you. Anybody else? All right, let's start down here.
Well, I honestly don't
Wait,
really remember.
don't start speaking until you get up to the podium.
I honestly don't really remember what my argument was. I can tell you a little bit about the article. It was basically about Chinese online retailers were using photos from the runway and people's Instagrams and like cutting off their faces and then like selling that exact outfit for like a portion of the cost. Like let's say a gown was $2,500, they would sell it for $100. And larger companies, there are laws to protect that intellectual property, but the only people that can actually like pursue any kind of action against these retailers are the really big companies. Like a couple years ago, Burberry won a really big lawsuit against, I think, this big chain of online Chinese retailers for using their plaid scarf thing. But the specific article that I read, it was about this lady. She's a wedding gown designer. She found one of her gowns on these websites that was selling it for like a tenth of the cost. And she didn't have the time or the money to pursue that. So instead what she did was buy the gown from the website and just like compare and contrast the differences between it. And she talked about how it was actually really good considering how much it costed. The only difference was just like the quality of products and like some stitching. But I want to say my argument was about how there's nothing to really protect independent designers or people who don't have the money or time to protect their intellectual property, or how they can't really protect their items from being used to advertise from another vendor.
So they were taking their pictures,
Yeah, they're taking their personal pictures.
but was it the same, they selling the same exact product, or was it just different and just using their,
No,
It's like
the exact
clones.
picture and saying, hey, this is what you're gonna get if you pay this much.
but it was different
It was-
when they bought it?
Yeah, like it would be, some of the sites they would like advertise it as the actual gown, but then give them a lesser quality one. And sometimes it wouldn't even like come out to be the right outfit, like completely different.
So the knockoffs are a lot cheaper product.
Yes, but sometimes they come out looking the exact same,
Same.
it's just with lesser quality.
Sorry, I don't really remember my argument.
No, that's all right. Yeah, this happens a lot. I used to be an American Indian art dealer. I'm not American Indian, but I had a gallery in Santa Fe, New Mexico. And we found that some of the famous paintings that some American Indians have done are being used in Japan to sell products. They've taken the image and then they put it on like cloth, put it on material and different things, and they're selling knockoffs of those. And the problem is, it's just too expensive to defend yourself, to defend your product. And it's very time consuming and it's really expensive to try to get a handle on that in a foreign market.
Wouldn't you say that that's kind of like the nature of the Chinese marketplace? If you go there, there's like 7-Elevens that aren't 7-Elevens or KFCs that aren't KFCs. And then even, I went to McDonald's, and underground was this like black marketplace that just sold knockoffs, and it was forever long. But it's just kind of the nature of the beast there, it's just, you're getting knockoffs. So do you think that's something that is totally okay to them, just not okay to us?
Well, for the consumers, like, if you know you're getting a knockoff, but for the person who actually invented it and designed it, that's kind of screwing them over because that's their design, that's their property, and there's nothing they can really do to protect themselves from it.
Wasn't there something if like you put it out on the internet, technically, I mean,
There is
it's not really your, like, you know, like, someone can use your picture, like, you put your picture out there, I mean.
In the article, the wedding gown designer, she actually had her pictures waterprinted,
Oh, okay.
watermarked. So they still had the watermark on the picture that they advertised with. But even then, you can copy and paste a picture.
Yeah. So isn't it kind of hard to like get around that and like sue people for that?
Unless like, yeah, large companies where they have the money, like Burberry, they can do that. But this is one single designer who has like one shop in, I don't know, Ohio. So I don't think she has the funding to go after that. Any other questions?
Just because you have something trademarked in the United States doesn't mean that other countries are going to abide by that trademark also. They don't have to recognize it. Although if you're part of the United Nations, I think we're all supposed to recognize each other's trademarks, but some countries just don't protect anything. Thank you. Next, please.
Alright, everyone there is over something super serious. And mine is over the TV show Teen Mom. So I chose psychological egoism because they're saying they're trying to prevent teen pregnancy and that's what they all stand for. But if you watch the show, they're all driving Cadillacs and they're all have really nice paying jobs and they're living a good life. When in reality, I mean, I had my first child at 19 and I'm still struggling. And people, I mean, I just don't think that they're portraying it in the right way. I don't think it's being marketed in the right way. I think it's being shown that it's okay, it's going to work out in the long run, when statistically, no, 90, it was a substantial amount of people. I think it was like 97-98% of teen moms don't even get like a GED. When these moms are going out and they're getting, you know, millions of dollars to be on these TV shows, get endorsed for other products. I think I followed one on Instagram to see what they were getting endorsed for, and they're getting endorsed for weight loss supplements and shoes and things that teens, you know, are looking for as well. So whenever you see a 16, you know, when I'm seeing a 16-year-old sister watch this show and getting excited about it and talking about it, it makes me nervous that she thinks it's okay to go get pregnant and that in the long run, it's going to be okay. It's going to work out. And so I think they're all in it for themselves. I don't think they're trying to spread awareness to not get pregnant. I think it's a big scam. Does anyone have?
Any questions? Anything, comments?
After that, after Teen Mom, like the fad of that started, it kind of seems towards the end of it, that teen pregnancy rates kind of went down, at least in my area of
Yes.
Oklahoma. So would you say that it actually had a positive effect on it, or is
So-
it just coincidence?
Well, I think it's just birth control is getting easier access to birth control is a big thing because I like kind of looked into it, and you can go to a health department at as early as age of 14 and tell them like you can't afford birth control and they will give it to you. I mean, that to me is, I feel like that's a better reason for it not to be happening. And I think just in general, I think education is getting better as well. I think that sex ed is starting earlier. I think that it's just being more aware. I don't think it has anything to do with the TV show, but that's how I take it.
So is teen pregnancy on the rise, or is it going
No,
down?
it is
going down.
decreasing. It is decreasing. I just don't feel like the teen moms are the reason.
Yeah, I feel like MTV's the one who has all those shows. It's like, they can say that all they want, they get it
I
from
think they
views.
glamorize it, but I think in reality, I think that's one good thing education is doing is the sex ed is becoming more relevant. You have to have it in like 6th grade now, again in 8th grade, and then you have health in high school. You have to take it sometime in high school. And then among that, I looked into it in healthcare now. You can go to the health department, get birth control as early as 14.
But how many people know that? Maybe that's what we should be advertising.
Yeah,
Is that, before you do this, go to your local health department and get birth control.
Yes.
Instead, we try to say, oh, we're not going to talk about sex, or we're not going to talk about pregnancy to young girls and offer birth control, because then we're encouraging them.
Which I think is not great. I think as humans, that's something that we, mammals are, reproduce. That's something that we have the urge to do. So I think they should be educated and be
But I
talked
think
about.
high school's too late.
Yeah, I agree. That's what I'm saying. I think that because
Junior
it's
high.
being introduced earlier and earlier. I don't think I had sex ed till like 8th or 9th grade, and now it's being introduced as early as 6th, in some states or even 5th grade. And now, well, that's a whole other topic. Never mind. Yeah, right there. Well, no, did you see the law about having talks about abortion that's being brought into education now? My husband, he's a teacher, and they said now they're basically letting kids understand the negative effects of abortion, which I think is really good. And so I think it's definitely being taught at an earlier age, which I think that's why rates are down, not because of the show.
Well, and my sister's a first grade teacher, and it's pretty astonishing what little kids know nowadays at first grade, and what they're saying, and the verbiage they know, and they know what it is. It's pretty disturbing, because when I was in first grade, I did not know any of that. And these first graders know far more than what I knew, and it's pretty disturbing. It's pretty scary to have kids and think that they're gonna be stuck with that in first grade.
I just think education is the most important part. I don't think that having a couple teen mom stars is doing anything for us.
Anything else? Thank you.
I spoke about Shawn Carter, Shawn Carter, and you probably know him as Jay-Z, and just I talked about how he, his different business ventures, and more importantly, how he's gone into the sports industry, and I related it to the psychological egoism and then the duty ethics, how those relate to the business. So he formed Rock Nation Sports, and before that he had ownership with the Brooklyn Nets, but he got out of that. He relinquished his ownership so he could become a sports agent. So it would be a conflict of interest to have ownership with the team, but to represent sports, to represent athletes. So that's why he relinquished his ownership, and he represents athletes. Well, the one everyone would be familiar with is Kevin Durant. So yeah.
So what is the moral dilemma here, the ethical dilemma?
Well, the egoism was you know, you could say it's his like he was doing it for his self-interest, but it was really, I mean, you could relate it to the duty ethics that he's doing it, you know, to represent the athletes. It's his duty as the agent to get them the best deal, you know, to put them with the best team, just basically to put them in the best situation overall. And there was a baseball player, I don't follow baseball closely, but he, the baseball player was gonna sign with another team, but Jay-Z told him to like just hold on and see if your current team will match the offer, and the team ended up coming back with like a way better offer in the end, and he got to stay with his current team and made a bunch more money than he would have made signing with the other team. So it really worked out, you know, better for him in the end.
Discussion,
That's it.
anybody?
Not really that controversial at all. A lot of y'all, so.
Thank you. Sir? You've already gone, that's it.
Okay, I talked about multi-level marketing companies. Does anyone not know what that is? Cool. Okay, so you don't know what it is?
Not quite familiar.
Okay, basically it's just like a company where they have independent agents and they sell the product or service. And based on how much they sell, they get commissions, bonuses, they get paid vacations, stuff like that. Yeah, so like Herbalife, Avon, Mary Kay, Tupperware, companies like that. And basically I just talked about if they were ethical or not, because the article I read, it kind of talked about these people mostly just interested in making money, not really selling the product or service like most companies do, I guess. And so I related it to utilitarianism, and where the agents think they're, maybe think they're doing the greatest good by selling this product or whatever, but they're actually just trying to get the most money for themselves so they can do whatever they want. So yeah.
Well, it seems like maybe people at the bottom, like the low, the ones who are out there actually selling the product instead of just like managing the employees.
Yeah, and that's
maybe they believe in that,
Yeah.
and so maybe for them it's not about the money. It's like an incentive and a benefit. But for the people that maybe like the higher end, maybe or like the up top, maybe they're the ones who are just more interested in the money.
Yeah, and that's another thing I talked about is that they're called uplines, the people above the very low people. And that if one of the people wanted to like leave the company, for example, the uplines made it really, really hard for them. Pretended they didn't know how to get out of the company, and they made it really hard for them, for the people on the bottom to give back their inventory. And so that was kind of a big thing. I didn't really like that. So.
I feel like with a lot of companies, their sales reps will be just about the money. They don't care. It doesn't have to just be them.
Yeah.
It's like at work, like I have a Samsung rep who comes up and like teaches me about all the Samsung phones, and he has an iPhone. It's like,
Yeah.
I was like, really? Like, you make all your money off Samsung, you use Apple? He's like, yeah, I hate Samsung. He's like, they pay the bills. I was like, okay.
Did your article say anything about like how fast these die out? I just feel like they change every year.
I didn't talk about that.
Because it's like,
There's like a new
everybody has
thing.
that one friend on Facebook that buys
Oh
into
my
everything.
Yeah.
But it seems like as soon as one thing dies out, they just pick up something else, but it's not.
I mean, there's hundreds of companies like that. Hundreds.
Well, I'll tell you a story about Amway. Back in the 80s, some vice president of Amway, and Amway, by the way, was originated out of Oklahoma, and then it moved to Dallas as their headquarters now, I think. But some vice president leaks it to to people beneath him in their pyramid, tell everybody in your particular, y'all, you're down salesmen, not to buy any Procter & Gamble products. It's important that they not buy those because that supports the Church of Satan. Well, it happens to be that Procter & Gamble, on all their products, that includes Tide, there's hundreds of products under Procter & Gamble. They used to keep on their product, they would have up in the corner a crescent moon and a star. And so this person from Amway said, just look at their products. That is a symbol of the devil. This crescent. Well, what that was, the Procters and the Gambles came from Germany. That was on the star of their providence or their, you know, something to do with their heraldry, their family or something, and that was just a reminder of where they had come from. So Procter & Gamble realizes that their sales of products are going way off, and some stores weren't out even ordering Procter & Gamble anymore because they'd heard it was supporting the Church of Satan. This got to be really big, seriously. I mean, it was causing a lot of trouble for Procter & Gamble, and they couldn't figure out where it was coming from. So at some point, some secretary at Amway sends the memo that all these people had gotten, and she copies that and sends it to Procter & Gamble and said, this is where this is coming from. And Procter & Gamble immediately sued Amway. And this was in about 1985, and they went into a horrific lawsuit. I mean, it was costing them, that's when they had a big changeover of their product names, and they started buying products, I mean, they dropped the name Amway on a bunch of their products because of this. And Procter & Gamble won several millions of dollars for the defamation of character. And there was one church back east that was particularly vehement about them being the sign of the devil, and that Procter & Gamble was devil worshippers. And they had to sue that church to get them to shut up, because once it got into people's minds that Procter & Gamble was evil, they didn't want to give that up, you know. And so this one church, they sued, and they ended up with the entire church. I mean, they owned the church, and they just tore it down.
That's crazy. I mean, my parents used to sell Amway when I was really little.
They did what?
They like were part of Amway, I'm pretty sure. I think. I don't know if they knew about that part, but.
It's a true story. That's what happened.
That's great.
It's a true story. I swear it. You can look it up. Yeah, it just got to be, it just grew. They just had no idea. Procter & Gamble, when it first started happening to them, they just ignored it because they thought, oh, that's so stupid. You know, where are they getting this stuff from? And then it got worse and worse and worse. And there were some stores, some grocery stores that were dropping their lines of Procter & Gamble products. It was a big deal. So that's taking unfair advantage over somebody.
Yeah.
Yeah, by lying. Thank you. Anything, oh, by the way, anybody else have anything they want to contribute? Okay, next.
So I did mine over something we already talked about, Apple and the privacy scandal. I took a little bit of different approach. I looked at Apple from a deontological ethics side, and that the reason they put out the letter and that they were doing what they were doing is because it was their duty as not only to their customers but to other technological firms, because if the FBI or whoever is going to make them create this back door, then they can ask Samsung or they can ask whoever else that operates these systems to do the same thing, and they'd have a case to go back and look at and say, hey, it happened here, it can happen again. And then I looked at the FBI and I looked at them from a utilitarianism perspective, because they are trying to get more people off the streets, obviously, they want to solve these terrorism cases, they want to put people away. So they're just trying to do the greatest good for the greatest number. So it's just like a classic, I don't know how to even dilemma between the two theories, in which one would be better for who.
Where does the case stand today?
I don't know. I really don't know. I haven't read up on it lately because I was kind of slammed with the terms. But do you know? Or you know? They did the same paper.
I don't know. Last I heard, they weren't going to reply, but it was going to go forward or anything.
Yeah, last time I heard they were going.
They're going to court.
They're still fighting it, which will probably take a lot of time, I'm gonna guess.
Yes.
Any other comments about the subject?
how do you all feel about that? Do you think the government has a right to get into your phone?
I don't know.
Yeah, they kinda already do get.
I mean, if it's like for terrorism and stuff like that, I think they kinda should.
Well, where do you draw the line?
Yeah,
Because they
Yeah,
might do
it's
like a
like-
preemptive strike and say like, we're doing this to prevent future terrorism.
But they can already see like who the person was calling, they can already see like the guy's iCloud,
Yeah, they already
and
had
his
enough
text.
information.
Yeah, but it's
So-
like what we talked about on Tuesday, though, it's like once that technology is created for them to be able to do that, it's really easy for someone to steal it and then use it for whatever they wanna do.
Yeah.
So that's where the real dilemma
What's gonna
starts.
stop them from using it for terrorism, like how they would tap people's phones, but not gonna say they're gonna tap people's phones through this way now, just another.
I know one of the divisions of the FBI or some police force says, oh, great, let's hope, I've got 150 more cases I want to run through there. So they were already planning. I mean, they thought if they can break this, if they can get this one case and have it permissible, they had a whole bunch more they were going to run through.
And like what we were talking about last week, is that once we create it for the US, it's not gonna just stay in the US. I mean, Apple's an international company, they can't say yes to the US government and then say no to China, or say, you know, in perspective of that, the whole world would end up with this technology, and that could
Yeah,
lead to more,
once it gets stolen, it basically ruins Apple's image of their security purposes. Because, like we had talked about on Tuesday, Apple, you know, none of their stuff ever gets hacked. They're really good with their security, and that just completely ruins it once that happens.
Yeah. Anything else, anyone? Thank you.
Better believe the students over here will be.
Turn this off.